Hello and welcome to Matchday 5 of Championship Predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of Matchday 4, where it was just a one perfect score overall, and that was QPR 2, Barnsley 2. That was Mr. Daniel Cody's perfect score. Myself, though, just pretty poor weekend, so I ended the weekend on 4 to Daniel Cody's 5. So let's get on to match day 5. Let's start with two 12:30 kickoffs. They're both derbies. Let's start off with Cardiff in a 7-side derby. They are playing Bristol City. Cody, Bristol City played on Friday night against the other Welsh team in Swansea. Started well, but then faded away, conceded the goal. To me, they didn't really look like getting back into the game.
No, I wouldn't say they had too many great opportunities, but I would argue it was probably one of their stronger performances of the season. They were the better side overall. But of course, that doesn't matter at this stage if you're losing 1-0. I guess the one positive to come out of it is after the Reading game, where they were a little bit poor defensively, they did look good at the back again, but there's no consistency or fluency going forward. And for all of Cardiff's slightly off days at the back so far in the Cup and against Peterborough away from home, they've been very good going forward. And Kiefer Moore, obviously there's a little bit of a link with him moving potentially to Wolves in the Premier League, but at the moment he's still there. And I just think Cardiff will be too strong. It's two very good managers coming up against each other, but Mick McCarthy's side looking far better shape. So Cardiff win is the sensible prediction. I'm just going to go, do you know what? I'm going to go comfortable, safe, 2-0 win to start with.
Yeah, I was going to say 2-0 comfortable win for Cardiff as well. My only negative for Cardiff at the moment is the strikers are not scoring. Centre half, though, fantastic. That's the positive. Centre half are scoring. Goal scorer Aidan Flynn, isn't it? So that's the pleasing thing. Obviously, the set pieces are working very well. Saturday will be the day that I think Colo will get onto the score sheet. We know what Colo's like. Cardiff, I think Cardiff win 3-0. Next up, it's Derby County. They are at home to Nottingham Forest. It's another derby. Derby 0-0 against Middlesbrough at home. Nottingham Forest, pointless. They didn't really look like scoring again. And we keep saying this, I think we said this since the start of last season, didn't really look like scoring, and it's happening again.
I know. And I think let's put into perspective here. I think even the most pessimistic of Forest fans probably wouldn't have expected to be behind Derby, given the prospective squads they had at the start of the season going into this game. Derby have actually done all right. To be fair to them, Derby on 5 points after 4 games is, I don't think I expected that, and I don't think many people did. And they've been pretty hard to beat. Even the only game they lost away at Peterborough, it was 2 stoppage time goals from a side running out of steam. So I've been pretty impressed with Derby given the circumstances. Nottingham Forest, though, I mean, there's been so much talk about Chris Hughton, hasn't there? Lamucci got sacked at this stage last year, and the international break is after this game. So if Forest don't win, I see problems for Hughton. The sensible betting would be only to go for a 0-0 or a 1-1 because they are the only 2 likely scores. But we so often get shocked with a thriller in a game like this. No, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go Championship's favourite scoreline, but it could as easily be goalless to me.
Yeah, they're the 2 results I would have gone for either. So I was just waiting on your result, and we'll stick with 0-0 because this could either be 0-0. It won't be 0-0 or 1-1. It possibly be like 3-3, where like Derby plays Sheffield Wednesday in the final game of the season. And different, it could be 0-0. It's probably the fans are back, and obviously that rises to the occasion when fans are in the building. So I'm going to stick with 0-0 for now. I'll be screwing if it's 3-3, but both teams don't have quality to go forward. James Garner obviously coming back on loan from Manchester United does make a bit of difference going forward, but regardless, it's still the same last season. They can't score for double money. Next out, well, it is Barnsley versus Birmingham City. Daniel, you went to watch Luton versus Birmingham. Birmingham put 5 goals against the Hatters. We'll get to Luton later. Let's talk about the positives from Birmingham City. Tahichan, what her play is, what is he doing at Birmingham? This is mad.
What a performance from Birmingham. We did, to be fair to us, we did say that this season we thought Birmingham would be stronger on the road, and it was very evident to see why in that game. 2 big, strong target men up top. Scott Hogan's their little man in their front partnership, and he's 6 foot. So, I mean, they've got a big strike force. Jutkovic and him, they held it up so well. We'll talk about Luton's tactical errors later, but Birmingham were fantastic. From set pieces, they were well drilled. Defensively, they got caught a couple of times in behind, but largely were very solid, particularly with the aerial balls into the box. And Talif Chong, we've mentioned it. I mean this with respect to Birmingham, because I really like them as a club, but they were expected to finish mid-table in the Championship this year. And Talif Chong, based on those performances, should not be playing at a side expected to finish mid-table at this level. He could be benefiting a Premier League side like that. But the question is, can he do that consistently? And can he do it at home? The good news for Birmingham is on the road, I think he's going to be a massive threat this year. And Birmingham are away at a Barnsley side that, I don't know, they've been a little bit stop-start so far this season and haven't looked particularly ruthless. So I have to go for a Birmingham win again based on that performance. But I don't think it'll obviously be as heavy. That was a one-off spectacular display. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Birmingham. I'm going to go back to the classic away win.
Barnsley, they'll be really disappointed that they can only get a point against QPR because first half they were sensational. The high press was there. QPR making mistakes at the back, got the 2 early goals. They're going to be really disappointed that they couldn't hold on. Birmingham, as a Luton fan, I haven't really watched the extended highlights that I probably would normally watch Luton, and I don't think I want. That's not disrespect to Birmingham. They turned on the star that day. I'm going to have to play safe. I'm going to go Championship favourite scoreline of 1-1. Up next, Craven Cottage, it is Fulham versus Stoke. These two teams, do you know what? I've really turned on the style, and Stoke, for all their negative, Mike O'Neill special, they've actually been quite fluent.
Yeah, they've looked good going forward. They've been as solid as we would expect at the back, probably bar the opening day. And away from home, they've looked a real threat as well, which last year at times was a draws galore fest, but they were fantastic at Swansea in the last away game for all of their problems. The problem is they're coming up against a Fulham side that, to be fair, we both had our doubts about Marco Silva, but so far he's got them playing some fabulous stuff. And I know perhaps they haven't had quite the goals in the last couple of games that their performances have merited, but Mitrovic is back on form. Harry Wilson, after that silly red card on the opening day, he's going to be back involved regularly now. There are so many positives in this Fulham team. And as much as Stoke are resilient and they're very good defensively when they're at their best, I think Fulham are too good and will nick this. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Fulham win. I'm going for a very low-scoring weekend by the looks of it so far.
Yes, there is. You've only got 2, 4, 6 goals so far in 4 games. I think Fulham will win this game 3-1. It depends how Fulham deal with the aerial of Stoke, but I think Fulham have enough quality and go for 3-1. Up next, it is Huddersfield versus Reading. Huddersfield picked up a dramatic last-minute winner at Sheffield United. Reading 3 defeats in 4. Considering this time last season, Reading were top of the table and doing really well to start this season. What do you think's changed with Reading?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer, Craig, would be selling a couple of fantastic youngsters and not signing anybody. They haven't backed a manager that did a brilliant job last year. And I know that they fell away in the end, but they still finished higher than probably any of us would have expected pre-season last season. And it just seems weird to me, even with the transfer embargo, they can still sign players on a free, and there's got to be people about that could have helped this squad, even on a short-term basis. So a bit like we've seen with Derby, for an example. Huddersfield, though, you've got to gain confidence from that, haven't you? We all thought Sheffield United's season was about to lift off when Billy Sharp scored at the start of stoppage time. And Huddersfield still managed to nick a winner. And Colwell, first senior goal, what a moment for it. And he will definitely be featuring in the thumbnail for this episode, I can promise you of that. So all the money has to be on Huddersfield. They're generally better at home. We saw that last season. They're getting people back after the COVID outbreak. Lee Nichols in goal made a massive difference against Sheffield United. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to Huddersfield because I don't trust either side to keep a clean sheet.
No, I don't trust either team to keep clean sheet either. Huddersfield, they'll be really buoyant from that last-minute winning because I'm going to criticise Sheffield United's defending for that last goal when we get to that game in a couple of fixtures' time. But Huddersfield took full advantage of it. So I'm going to go... I think this will be an entertaining game for some random reasons. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Next up, it is Hull City versus Bournemouth. Hull, obviously, they're slowly getting back to life into the Championship. Another defeat for them. Bournemouth signed Morgan Rogers on loan. Do you think Bournemouth might need another player in, or they just, it was a good comeback by Blackpool?
It's hard to tell. The thing that worried me about it from a Bournemouth point of view is that Blackpool were good value for it in the second half. They really put pressure on Bournemouth, and in the end, they weren't far off on the stats, let alone on the performance on the pitch. I do think Bournemouth are perhaps slightly lighter defensively. And I know they've got some regulars out at the moment, but I think they could do with one more addition, perhaps at centre-half, just to experience things up. I know we've seen that Gary Cahill's coming in and he probably will make that difference. Maybe just one more alongside him just for the squad, because I can't think Cahill will be able to play 2 or 3 games a week at this stage. But in terms of Bournemouth, I think they'll be all right. And particularly on the road, again, another side that have looked better away from home this season. So I think Bournemouth will win comfortably. Hull have really struggled the last couple of games. And after a pretty rapturous first day of the season, it's just come back down to earth a little bit. So I think Bournemouth will nick it. Again, I don't really trust either to keep a clean sheet, despite the fact that Hull haven't scored in 3. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Bournemouth, but they might add another. In fact, no, let's make it 3-1 Bournemouth.
Well, I'm glad you said 3-1 Bournemouth because I'm going to go 2-1 now. I think Bournemouth are capable of conceding the goal at the moment. I think they're conceding every game so far, bar the Birmingham game. That goal got disallowed. But Hull, yeah, I think they've had a tough run of fixtures, to be honest. Hull obviously got that Preston win. I think they expected to get something from Derby, but I think Bournemouth won this game 2-1. Up next at the Kenny, it is Luton Town versus Sheffield United. I would not have had Luton above Sheffield United at this stage of the season. Let's start with the home team because we got trashed 5-0 at home. Did you see that result coming? Was it just maybe because the players that we've had playing, it's that little bit moment of, okay, they've overworked, obviously, after that brilliant 1-0 win at Barnsley?
I didn't see the result coming, but it was just a bizarre or a culmination of events that led to it. So I wouldn't worry about it on a long-term basis. And don't forget, when Nathan Jones came back, that lockdown where we survived, the 9 games at the end of the season, his second one and our only defeat was a 5-0 at home to Reading, and we bounced back immediately. So I'm not too concerned. Look, the things that happened in that game, Nathan Jones made a tactical error at the start. If a team's coming up against you with 2 target men and you're playing a back 2 or 3, you've got to have a defensive midfield shield. Once we brought Glenn Ray on, we did look a little bit better in that front until the last 10 or 15 minutes. So that's the first thing to get out of the way. Talif Chong was unbelievable, which you're not going to come up against every week. That was a Birmingham side at their very best as well. The only slight worry, I think, from the Luton fans' point of view for a longer term basis, with a lot of new players in the side this season, is at 3-0, we had a couple of good chances to get back into it. Once that didn't happen, it's the first time in a long time I've seen a Luton side give up the last 10 minutes. And that's where there's potentially a concern mentally. But I think we've got to bear in mind, probably our first 2 choice centre-halves are still out of the side at the moment. We've got other players to come back in. Fred Onyedinma wasn't fit enough to start either. Looked a threat when he came on. And I think a perfect game to bounce back, ironically, we wouldn't have thought it at the start of the season, is Sheffield United. A crushing blow at the end of that game against Huddersfield, as we mentioned earlier. I know you'll talk about the defending. It wasn't particularly pleasant from either team at the weekend. So do you know what? I'm going for Luton to bounce back big. I'm going to go for Luton Town 4-0. I'm going for it completely the other way.
What? 4-0? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go, obviously not going to go 4-0. It's going to be a lot lower for me, to be honest. I'm going to go 2-0 Luton. Obviously, let's get on to Sheffield United's defending for the last goal. I cannot believe in the 90 whatever minute they've left 2 players unmarked in the 18-yard box and every player is out of the 18-yard box. From a Premier League team last season is indefensible. That is shocking. It's not going to get any better. Jukanovic needs the international break desperately. I'm going Luton Town to win 2-0. Next up, Riverside, Middlesbrough, playing Blackburn. Blackburn 2-1 at home to West Brom. Obviously, West Brom were very dominant in that game, not going to lie. Middlesbrough, mixed start again, I have to say. Obviously, 0-0 draw at Derby. I think they would want to take something, but they had that typical Neil Warnock, not many chances at away performance.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a stuttering start. And on the road, I don't think they've found any rhythm yet. Obviously, we'll take out the League Cup fixture, but away to Fulham and Derby, it was probably a bit more cautious protecting the defence on the road, which we can understand. Blackburn won't be too disheartened by that West Brom game. They brought in Ian Poveda on loan at last to sign in. I think Blackburn have got a lot to be excited about. And I think they're probably going to do a bit better in the first half of the year than we thought. The challenge will come after Christmas with a smaller squad, as it did last year, where they started to fall away dramatically. Having said that, Middlesbrough are a very good home side, but they haven't quite opened the taps yet. There'll be transfer deadline day business at the Riverside, but for this game, I'm going to go to Championship's favourite scoreline, 1 apiece.
This does have a draw written all over it, to be honest, but I think Borough might sneak it. Blackburn will probably be the happier of the two at the start, to be honest. the Chilean sensation is doing really well. So, but not this time for me, but Borough to win 1-0. Up next, the new den, Millwall versus Blackpool. Normally have solid starts. I thought they've got bullied against Cardiff.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange game, really, to see Cardiff so dominant. I know they've got a great threat in that area, but it's not the type of game you would expect Millwall to lose so comfortably. They did have a brief flurry in the game, though. And as you say, I'm looking forward to ticking the ground off this evening. But at home, as we mentioned, they're a very different proposition. The Fulham game, yes, they were outplayed for large parts, but they did have a flurry late on. They did try and get back into it. And aside from that, they've picked up a win and a draw in the cup and the league. So Blackpool away from home, I've mentioned from the start, are going to be better this season on the road. They've got pace, they've got a threat on the break, and they're pretty high energy. So if they go and chase the game, I think they can get something out of this. And I think it's going to be a thriller. I'm going to go for 2-2 again because Blackpool have looked a threat on the road when they've really gone for it. Yeah,
do you know what? Like, I know Blackpool are only on 2 points, but I've been quite impressed with them, to be honest. Despite being down near the bottom, I'm quite happy how Blackpool are doing, especially that 2-2 draw at Bournemouth. Obviously, they could have caved in really quickly. Millwall, I'm very disappointed in Millwall, to be honest. I think Blackpool might have the momentum now. I'm going to go 2-1 to Blackpool. Right, up next, Deepdale, Preston versus Swansea. Both teams picked up 1-0 victories.
Yeah, a bit of a weird weekend. I mean, both sides were, particularly Swansea, were by far the inferior side against Bristol City, but got the win. I think the one thing I will say in fairness to Preston, having been quite harsh on them, they were good value for the win at the weekend. And they are starting to get a few of their better players back into the squad after injuries, after COVID, all of that sort of stuff. So Patrick Bauer, obviously back from long-term injury, he got the winner in that game. And they are gradually starting to look a slightly stronger squad. They still need to do a lot of business before the end of the window to give it a competitive championship feel if they want to improve on last year. I don't really know who to go for, to be honest with you. I think Swansea are going to gradually improve under Russell Martin, but I don't know if it's going to be enough on this occasion. It could be 1-0 either way. I'm going to go goalless.
I'm going to have to go draw as well, to be honest. I don't see much quality, even though they both got the win on the weekend. But I'm going to go Championship favorite scoreline of 1-1. 2 to go. QPR versus Coventry City. Both teams picked up a valuable goal in the last few minutes in stoppage time. Coventry, very good start at home, considering they've been missing for 2 seasons. But on the road, it's a bit of a different story.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to be fair, we say it's a different story. If it hadn't been for a late penalty miss against Barnsley, then it might not have been a different story. So I wouldn't get too worried about that. And they do just look a solid side. I think most of their games this season are going to be low scoring, a goal here or there, or a few draws in the middle. And I think they'll be comfortable, as we said at the start of the season. QPR, it's defensive frailties again. And I know it's a few new look defenders. Jimmy Dunn had to come on in the last game, and he is a good defender at this level, but they're going to take a while to gel. Going forward, they look fabulous. They look fluent. Ilias Chair scored a fantastic goal. And then you've obviously got the late equaliser, which is going to leave you buoyant into the next match. So as much as I really think Coventry will be fine this year, I can't see past QPR for this one. If they finally hit form going forward, with a side perhaps with slightly less attacking threat like Coventry, I think they're going to win this one convincingly. 3-1 QPR.
I think that I'm going to do the Charlie Betts prediction. It could be a 2-0 QPR. Coventry will go for a last-minute attack, and then QPR will hit them on the counter-attack. But I'm going to QPR to win 2-0. And the final game, it is Peterborough United versus West Brom. Peterborough obviously lost to Preston. West Brom were comfortable at Blackburn. Do Peterborough need to rely on home results? Because at the moment, they've got 4 points out of a possible 6 at home. None away from home.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I saw against Luton and based on that performance against Preston, who you would argue at the moment are one of the slightly weaker championship sides, I think it's going to come down to home form. They were brilliant against Cardiff, but that will be a hammer blow that they couldn't hang on in that game. And are they going to be able to cope defensively with teams that either counter-attack with speed or can just put an onslaught in the box like that? I think they struggle against both. And as much as they're a decent side going forward, they'll score goals at home all year. I really worry if they can't get in a good championship player defensively. And it looks like that's not going to be forthcoming. West Brom have been absolutely scintillating. And I think, unfortunately, as a result, this is one of the home games Peterborough probably won't get a result. So I think they'll get a goal still, but I'm going to go for... Do you know what? Actually, I think West Brom will run away with this on the counter. 4-1 West Brom to finish.
Yeah, I think West Brom are going to win out a counter as well. I think Darren Ferguson is pretty much worried about defending set pieces at the moment, and obviously conceding one at the weekend is not going to help. West Brom have been scoring a lot of goals from set pieces, obviously from the long throw, so that's going to play a factor in it. I'm going to go Peterborough 0, West Brom 3. Let's have a quick recap of what we had predicted in match day 5. A couple of 3-0s for me. Daniel Coates started slow on the lack of goals, but then just came out of nowhere. Obviously, 4 goals in the game between Hull and Bournemouth and Luton and Sheffield United. And obviously, West Brom, they think they're going to smash Peterborough. And those are our predictions for match day 5. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down below. Why you're down there. Give us your predictions for this weekend's action. Why don't you give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football Free. And we'll see you next time.